What? Why are you shaking your head?
You're welcome.
What is up, Fantasy Points? We are back for the Week 13 NFL DFS cage match. We are going to be drafting teams against each other for a three-man contest. As usual, it is myself. It is Jake Tribbey. We are here every single week, and we bring in a special guest every week. This week, our guest is Ricky. He is R-Fresh on Twitter. My friend from Canada who could not actually enter his lineups, but he will draft one with us anyway. Ricky, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm in Costa Rica right now, actually, so escaping
Are you really?
the cold back home. Yeah, that's why I was worried about the internet being spotty, because we're in a little condo here, and I wasn't sure how good, but it's fine. It's nice. I just finished a hour and a half beach massage during sunset, and now I hopped on the stream. So
that is amazing that you are in Costa Rica. I had no idea that you were traveling, and that was why we needed to test your internet earlier. That's really amazing. And then, of course, you and I are going to be traveling to the same place. We're both going to Nashville, Moochers, for the Fantasy Football World Championship. Ricky and I met for the first time in person last year as guests at the Fantasy Football World Championship. So that should be fun going back to Nashville. When are you getting back? Are you going back home before you fly out to Nashville?
Yeah, I fly home tomorrow afternoon. And then fly out on Thursday to Nashville, so get a week back home.
All right, so you'll get a chance to see your dogs before you head back out to Nashville. That's good.
Most important thing.
Yeah. Jake, how are you doing today?
Oh, doing great, Neil. I every week pushes me a little bit closer to being a cage match nihilist as opposed to a cage match stoic. But yeah, we're back and better than ever for week 14.
Yeah, we will. We'll review those teams from last week. We do play for charity, as you can see on the screen right now. This is charity that I played for last week. So every week, every contestant chooses a charity that they want to play for, and whoever wins fantasy points will donate $100 to the charity of the winner's choice. So my charity last week was Ruff Start Rescue, a local rescue here in Minnesota that I have some friends that work with them. I know they do great work in animal rescue. And I also forgot to choose a new charity this week. So I'm going back to it. I'm going back to 2 weeks in a row of Ruff Start Rescue. And then if I don't win this week, then I guess I'll probably choose a new one next week. But honestly, no issue with going back to the same charity because it is a good charity that I believe in. Jake, I know you are going back to the same charity as last week, Beloved Asheville once again. How you want to say a few words about Beloved Asheville?
Yeah, it's a great local grassroots charity in the Asheville area. Just helping out all the people of Asheville who obviously need that help now more than ever. So hoping to finally win one for Beloved Asheville in week 14.
This is your week. This is your week for Beloved Asheville. I hope so for them. I actually don't hope that you win, but for Beloved Asheville,
it gets funnier and funnier the more that I lose. So I can appreciate that element of it. But outside of that, I do really want to win.
Yeah, no, I hear that. And then finally, Ricky, you chose Birchway Niagara. Tell me a little bit about why you chose Birchway.
Well, it was pretty simple. Last night we were celebrating my mom's birthday, and you got the text to say pick a charity that you want to use for this contest. I said, Mom, who do you want to donate the money to when I win this DFS cage match? And she said Birchway. So there it is. All right. It's a birthday present.
It's a local.
Now I just have to come through on the win.
It's a .ca, so I take it as just a local Canadian.
Yeah, exactly, and she does volunteer work there as well. It's close to Buffalo, Niagara. So
okay,
it's a local Canadian one. Yep.
Nice choice. Before we get into drafting our teams for this week, and again, we draft within the DraftKings salary cap, which is for a three-man contest, containing just the three of us competing against each other. But before we get into this week's, we like to review teams from the previous week. I know that I won. I actually don't know who got last place. Usually we do the last place lineup first. So I'm just going to assume that Adam's lineup lost this week, just for Jake's sake, to give him the rare second place finish.
Thank you, Neil.
And Adam, also because he didn't even enter a lineup into our contest, I feel like that he's automatically last place anyway. So we are going to.
It's iffy whether or not week 12 counted at all.
I mean, it definitely counted. Whether Adam's lineup counted is questionable, but I'm going to bring it up here. I took a picture of it so that Ricky can give a quick review of Adam's lineup. So you can see it on the screen Ricky, I'll read it off to you. Tommy DeVito at quarterback. He went with the min-priced quarterback. Christian McCaffrey, Brian Robinson Jr., Juwan Jennings, Jackson Smith-Njigba, DK Metcalf, Hunter Henry, Tyrone Tracy, and the Vikings defense. I will say, in Adam's defense, we did not know at the time that he drafted this that Brock Purdy was going to miss that game. I think that I don't even know if he was questionable or anything. So Adam was kind of leaning into that game. Right, it was Brock Purdy, right? That he was leaning into the Brock Purdy for the Christian McCaffrey, Juwan Jennings. Lost a little bit of projection there with Brock Purdy being out. What do you think of this lineup, Ricky?
I mean, it probably projects pretty well. The DeVito stuff, I mean, he's 4K. It's hard to pass that up in a 3-man contest, but you kind of, what the risks are with something like that. I mean, solid picks all around. I assume most of these guys are probably chalk in the bigger contests, right? So yeah, it's hard to really poke too many holes in this, to be honest with you. But maybe the two giants, Tracy and DeVito, with their low team total, I know they probably both individually projected well, but maybe you go one of those and get a little bit different with the other two. But
yeah,
otherwise, I got no issues with it.
Yeah, no, I think it's a totally fine lineup. If only he had entered it, we could know whether he was last place or second place. Jake, because you entered your lineup, we're giving you second place in this one by a wide margin. I should point out, lost by over 40 points here. A lot of snowflakes in your lineup. Do you feel like the process was good? How do you feel about this lineup, Jake?
Yeah, I'm sure my process was excellent, and I just ran terrible yet again. Odunze, I think, is really interesting in the fact that I believe in Thomas Brown's first game as the Bears offensive coordinator, Odunze led the team in target share. He had the highest target share of any Bears wide receiver. Week 12, it was Keenan Allen, and then DJ Moore last week. Things have really been all over the place. So I was probably in the wrong trusting any of these Bears wide receivers. Jonnu Smith, I can pretty safely say, along with Achane, were great picks. I mean, Jonnu Smith he's been outproducing Tyreek Hill since week 5 in basically every receiving category, which is absolutely insane. It feels like the whole offense right now is revolving around Jonnu. And Neil, I'm kind of curious what your opinion is on the Dolphins pass game, because I mean, this is just really weird to see so much production going to Jonnu, so little going to the wide receivers. McDaniel keeps saying it's because of the way, teams are playing the wide receivers, really focusing on taking those two guys away. I know Scott Barrett's argued in some of his work that it's really just because Tyreek Hill has lost a step and clearly isn't the same guy. I think it's probably a combination of those two, but I'm still always interested in playing a 7K Tyreek Hill in DFS tournaments. I'm curious where you guys are at on that.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as you that it's probably a combination of factors. And I also have fallen for Tyreek Hill on like every slate he's been on for the past several weeks. It's like, oh, he just seems too cheap. He's Tyreek Hill. One of these weeks he's going to work out. I, of course, played Jalen Waddle a lot the week prior to his big breakout. And then he did break out the following week at 0 ownership. So it's been a really frustrating situation with the Dolphins. But I think it's probably mostly true that he is just like, all right, you're going to cover our receivers that well, then we'll feed Jonnu Smith and Devin Achane. He gave us some indications this summer that he liked Achane, wanted to get him the ball, that he was really liked him, his yak abilities. So yeah, I think I'll take him at his word that probably he would like to get his receivers involved, but he's just taking what the defense has given him. I don't know. Ricky, do you have any thoughts on the Dolphins passing game?
I mean, it is definitely an interesting change this year, how they've switched it up, but I think they just have such a good asset in Achane that they just keep giving him as many touches as they can. You'd think that between Waddle and Hill, one of them would be doing good every week, or at least reasonable. And it's so hard to project with them. Like, I guess Waddle had one spike week this year, and that's kind of it. So he's kind of on the back burner. And Hill, I feel like you just can't play him you can't not play him when he's so cheap, because he has that ability. Even if he lost a step, he's still Tyreek Hill. He's still got big play potential, and it's frustrating. But if the ownership keeps going down and the price is around the same or even cheaper, I mean, it's hard to pass up on that, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. All right. And then finally, my team, the team that won. Of course, I feel great about my winning team. I got laughed at for taking Kareem Hunt first overall, the starting running back against the Panthers. Jake told me that it was my worst first round pick ever at the time I made the pick. And it didn't actually work out as great as it could have. He could have easily put up 25-30. He didn't, but I didn't need it because Cortland Sutton put up 30 for me. Jacoby Myers put up 25. Jaden Daniels put up 32. I mean, this is just a strong team all around. Dave Montgomery, 16. Romeo Dobbs, I think he got hurt mid-game, still had 8 fantasy points like in the first half. Travis Kelce, James Conner, bit of a letdown. I did the Conner with Cardinals thing. The Cardinals defense part worked out. James Conner, not so much. But again, I got what I needed to out of the team. Felt pretty good about it. All right, I think that is going to do it for the breakdown here of last week. Let's get into this week's building. And of course, Ricky, I told you before we started, you get to choose your draft spot. So would you like to go first, second, or third?
I think I'm going to go with the first pick.
Okay. Before you make your pick, Jake, we need to figure out who is going second here. So we skipped a week. Do we want to go with, I actually don't really care where I go. So if you have a preference where you're going, you can choose your spot and then we'll get back to every other.
I will take the second pick if you do not have a strong preference.
All right. I will go third then. So we're going Ricky, Jake, Neil, and then we're going to snake back. So I'll get to start off the second round. Ricky, have you given much thought to who you want to take with your first overall pick?
Yeah, I think I am going to go with probably a chalky option this week, but I'm going to go with Barkley as my first pick against the Panthers.
Yeah. Tough to argue with Saquon Barkley against the Panthers. Feels kind of obvious. He is 9,000, so maybe. I mean, you obviously don't need to worry about chalk in this contest where we're all just gonna have everybody's gonna be 33% owned. But like, I'll be curious to see how chalky Saquon actually ends up on the main slate because of the price. Maybe it stays relatively reasonable, but I'm not convinced.
I think you could argue against him just in the sense that like we've seen some early benchings because Philadelphia has been blowing opponents out. I mean, we saw that against Dallas when he was benched at the end of the third quarter. And we've also seen obviously Jalen Hurts steal everything inside the 2-yard line. So maybe that keeps his ownership in check. But other than that, I mean, it feels like, the perfect spot for the best running back in football. It's hard to deny that he's a great play.
Yeah, I'm praying for a Saquon. Just like don't put up 30 fantasy points plus. Just like stop at like 15 and call it good, Saquon. That's all I'm asking for my best ball bags. Do you have any thought that like maybe he's going after the rushing record and that might be like a reason to stay in there against Carolina? Just like put up 200 yards and put yourself in a good position to take the rushing record. Like that's my one concern is that like I'm hopeful that maybe they don't go all in on Saquon because they don't need to against the Panthers. But then I'm like, but he's getting pretty close, I think, to the rushing record.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess that would have to be something they've come around to in recent weeks because if he was going for the rushing record, they wouldn't be pulling him in the fourth quarter for the most part. Yeah. I don't know how big of a narrative that's going to be. I'd imagine that would really come into play week 16, 17, 18. Right now, it's probably not a huge factor. And I mean, it's tough too because they might not be playing for anything in week 18, right? And then do you trot him out and try to break the rushing record then? That's
probably not. Like they have
right.
aspirations, so it's probably not something we need to worry about.
Yeah.
Did you see that clip on Twitter where Sirianni was saying, hey, you're 15 yards off your career record or your career best game. Do you want to go for it? And he said, no, let the younger guys play. So
yeah.
Okay, that's cool. I don't think I saw that. Yeah. I knew that he had done something at one point where he let somebody else come in, but I didn't know that it was going for a record in that game. So yeah, probably they don't go after the record here. Just something to think about if you are planning on playing him. Possibly he goes for the record. I don't know. Jake, Saquon off the board. Who's your number one?
Yeah, I think there's one other running back who's in sort of a similar tier as Saquon right now, and it's Alvin Kamara, especially with Taysom Hill out. I mean, Taysom Hill was stealing a good amount of targets, especially short area stuff, and he was stealing about 1.5 expected fantasy points worth of red zone work per game. If I remember right, it was pretty close to an even split over the last handful of weeks between Kamara and Taysom Hill inside the 10. So this should just mean a monster workload for Kamara. I am a bit worried that offensive efficiency, I mean, we've seen through like EPA per play has generally taken a hit without Taysom Hill on the field. But when we're dealing with a running back who's going to play on 85% of backfield snaps and get every high value backfield touch, yeah, I think he's a pretty easy click against a New York Giants team that has been prone to being blown out here.
Yeah, I think those are like the pretty clear number 1 and number 2 picks. But I also think that there's a pretty clear number 3 pick, and that is Isaac Guerendo, with both of the backs in front of him being out. Guerendo, 5,400, just looks like a really strong value, as the lead back for San Francisco has just been very good all year. I guess maybe I'm overrating it because Trent Williams is presumably out again. I know he had lost a child and probably going to miss another week. I don't know if there's also an injury there, but probably not play now that they're like eliminated from the playoffs. Like what incentive does he have to rush back? So maybe it's a little bit of a tougher spot for Guerendo than typically for San Francisco running backs. But I have to imagine with McCaffrey and Jordan Mason out, like he's going to get the bulk of carries. And it's been a great spot all year. I don't know. You seem like you question whether Guerendo is that great of a pick, Jake.
I definitely like the pick. I think it's hard to dispute that he's, right around a top 5 value this week. I guess my biggest concern would be maybe we see a bit more Patrick Taylor than we hope. Like, I think most people clicking on Guerendo will probably hope for 80% of backfield work. I'm worried it could be closer to 60 or 65%. That said, he's very clearly been ahead of Patrick Taylor on the depth chart, so 80% still wouldn't surprise me. I think my bigger concern, though, is that this is just a really beat-up team. I mean, you already hinted at the Trent Williams injury. They're only a 4-point favorite against Chicago. 6 weeks ago? That probably would have been 7.5. So yeah, that does kind of hurt the upside of the backfield overall. And I mean, I think we can pretty safely say, given what happened with Jordan Mason, that Guerendo won't be catching many passes. It just doesn't seem like they want to involve any running back who isn't McCaffrey in the receiving game very much. So those would be my concerns. Yeah. But I mean, at 5,400, it's pretty nitpicky, and he's a very explosive player. So even if he does have closer to a limited workload, he could just break off one long run and get you there.
What I'm gathering is that Jake is a little bit shook after calling my Kareem Hunt pick my worst first round pick ever. So now he's just like, yeah, I'm not gonna say anything controversial here. I'm just gonna tell you that's a good pick. Is that right, Jake?
I can safely say the Kareem Hunt pick was worse because I mean we had there's probably a 40 to 60% chance that Isaiah Pacheco was going to play that week. That's a disastrous first round pick. And it didn't even work.
It was like 10%. It was like, yeah, there's a chance that Pacheco plays, but he's probably going to be in the background anyway.
I don't think we knew that on Wednesday, man. But okay, I'll give it to you.
Ricky, what do you think of the Guerendo pick?
Yeah, I think right now it looks fine. They signed somebody onto their practice squad too, like
Israel Abanikanda.
Yeah, so I don't know if he'll get worked in or not, but maybe that's just kind of speaking to how much work they actually think they're going to give him or what they really think of Guerendo. But I mean, cheap running back value, you can't really go wrong with it. We're just guessing at why he might be bad, but we're going to assume that he can be efficient in the touches that he does get too, right? Hard for him to sink your lineup especially in a small field cash kind of thing, right?
Yeah, at 5,400. And then my other pick is going to be Jacoby Myers, just 5,600. Of course, carried me, one of the many players to carry me to victory a couple weeks ago. I think once again, just like why is he 5,600? Given his role on this team, just clearly too cheap for his role on this team. I guess the quarterback play, not the best, but I'm not that worried about it. He's just been great, and he's pretty cheap. Any disagreement there on Jacoby Myers?
I can't really disagree on Jacoby Myers, but I think what's probably a more interesting discussion, and I'd imagine we'll probably draft quarterbacks here in a few rounds, but it looks like Aiden O'Connell's going to be pretty chalky this week, and the stack is just so straightforward. I know Scott Barrett, we're still on a very rough draft right now of the slate breakdown, but I know Scott Barrett had a fairly favorable review, and I'm just very hesitant to play a guy who isn't good on a team that isn't good when he's going to be popular. Am I overthinking Aiden O'Connell being a great play this week, Neil?
He had a couple like 20+ point fantasy games last year. So he's shown the ability to spike an upside. I don't think that you're overthinking Aiden O'Connell, but I think like his receivers can get there, or Jacoby and Brock Bowers can get there even without Aiden O'Connell having a big game, just because it's so concentrated to them as far as targets go. I think you're right to question the upside of Aiden O'Connell, or I guess more so to question the floor of Aiden O'Connell. but I think that the receivers can like spike an upside even with O'Connell being bad. At least I hope so. I think it's possible.
Yeah, that kind of makes me, and I was thinking about this earlier today, like that kind of makes me want to lean more into the Baker side of this game, and then you can just play. You can still get that Bowers and Jacoby exposure without the risk that is Aiden O'Connell. Because I mean, I think we can all agree Baker is just a way better fantasy asset right now.
Yeah. It's back to your pick. On that note, Jake, any idea who you're going with?
Yeah, I think. Running back gets, I mean, I think the top running backs are pretty clearly off the board. It gets pretty flat just looking at our initial projections. I'll get a little bit of leverage here on Neil, and I will grab Brock Bowers as my tight end. I mean, he is just playing incredible. You have to go back to Mike Ditka to see rookie tight end receiving stats that are as strong as Bowers right now. Looks great after the catch, is running great routes, is getting fed targets. Yeah, and this is a great matchup. Tampa Bay pass defense has been a complete disaster all year. So I'd imagine Brock Bowers will end up as mega chalk this week.
Yeah, no, if you had not taken, if you had somehow made it back to me, I was definitely going to go with the Bowers, add him on to the stack. I went with the cheaper option there in Jacoby Myers, but have nothing negative to say about Brock Bowers here. Like 6,500 still just feels too cheap for Brock Bowers with tight end eligibility. Honestly, if he were a wide receiver, like he should be more expensive than 6,500. So, looks pretty good to me. Ricky, we are sending it back to you. Are you able to buy? Were you able to buy any of this Hawk coin in Costa Rica? Are you? Was that available in Costa Rica?
I mean, I could have, but it's like every time these celebrities launch a coin, it's just this like it's never successful. Like, has there actually been a successful celebrity coin?
I'm not aware of one.
Who's the Izzy Azalea? What,
okay.
Am I saying that? I think Iggy Azalea. There you go. Her coin did pretty well. I think the big problem with, and I actually did think, Neil, about buying the launch of the Hawk coin. Until I found out that 95% of the supply is controlled by 10 wallets. So that backed me off a good bit. I did not want to get dumped on by Haley Welch, I believe is her name.
Yeah.
I'm sure she's doing great financially. I don't think she needs any of my money.
Yeah, no, I think she'll do okay without your investment in the coin.
Yeah.
I saw that it had like gone way up and then just immediately dropped down like 20 minutes later. Always funny to see the celebrity coins and the people who like complain about it after the fact. Like, well, what were you doing? Like, what did you expect here? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why people do it.
That's a
and
very
this just happened with Taylor Mathis, right?
Like, yeah.
Oh,
same. Yeah. That lasted like a week, I think. I don't think it was as immediate.
That was slightly different because I guess she didn't launch the coin. She was just given a high percentage of the supply, like 5% to promote it. And then she still kind of rugged and dipped out of there. But hey, Neil, I mean, if you wanted to do a Flannelverse coin, I could certainly help you for a percentage of the supply.
Appreciate that. Debro, not a believer in the Neil coin, which has not launched, by the way. No, it's gonna do
Coming
great
soon.
when the Flannelverse coin drops. Good to see Debro in chat. Debro, you got to let me know my next turn. You got to tell me who is the Devon Vele or MVS of this week. So you can, but wait until it's my turn to tell me who is that guy this week. I know you're probably not done. Debro like spends 16 hours a day, Monday through Wednesday, working on the next week's slate. So, he's probably getting pretty close to tell me who that guy is.
I see him grinding in there. We share some Google Sheets. I'll see Debro in there nonstop.
Oh, do you?
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for sharing, guys. Really appreciate that. It is your turn, Ricky. You now get back-to-back picks. You have Saquon on your team already. You're going to need a little bit of I told you to wait until it was my turn, Debro. What are you doing? Back-to-back picks here. Who you like?
Well, the two guys that I was hoping were going to fall to me, I guess both got taken. I was hoping to fit Myers in there with Barkley for the salary savings, so I got to kind of rethink it a little bit here. And I think that I'm going to go with this is so tough, but pretty pretty fun and unique. I've never drafted like this, but it is gets you
is.
thinking. I'm going to go with Aaron Jones.
Okay.
Oh,
Aaron Jones. And then you get one more pick after that. So you've locked up your running back room. Obviously, you can still draft another running back in the flex if you want to.
And,
I like that, though.
And I think with my next pick, I will go with JSN.
Okay. Yep. JSN
So-
6,300.
Aaron Jones, I think, is really interesting. So last 4 weeks, 55% snap share, 55% snap share, 80% snap share, and then last week 51% because he had the back-to-back fumbles, or I don't know if they were back-to-back, but it was 2 of his first 4 carries, if I'm not mistaken, and then he caught the game-winning touchdown. So Ricky, I imagine your assumption is that he's going to be back to that sort of 80% snap share that we had grown accustomed to in his games where he was fully healthy and not fumbling.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they haven't shown in preseason, Ty Chandler was getting all the hype that he was going to get more of a role, and we know that never happened. And I think they're not just going to give up on him because of a couple of fumbles. So I'll take a chance. I need to save some salary and get a little bit different, mix it up with Aaron Jones. And I think he can perform well. He projects still decently this week. And that's pretty much just ignore whatever happened and assume that he'll go back to his regular self and roll and not fumble 2 times this week. And
yeah, I'd imagine for tournaments, he's probably a guy we'll get a pretty good ownership discount on, especially if he is that 80% snap share player. And yeah, I mean, as Debro mentioned in the chat, Ty Chandler, Cam Akers just really aren't it. I think Minnesota wants to avoid giving those guys the ball if they can.
Seems that way. Yep. Ricky, you have 4,700 left per player, so you might want to start thinking about a value you can find somewhere to make sure you make it all work. But I mean, that's not that bad. 4,700. You still have a defense to go to save some salary, potentially a tight end. So not a huge concern yet, but something to keep in mind. Jake, you have 5,071 left per player. You have 2 players so far. It is now your 3rd pick.
Yeah, this is a tricky one. Not a ton of value on the board. Quarterback's really gross. Man, kind of debating between 2 guys here. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to draft Aiden O'Connell. As much as I probably hate him in tournaments this week, I do think for a 3-man type format, he's probably going to end up being the best play. The matchup's really good. Tampa Bay's pass defense is a complete disaster. We also saw O'Connell put together a 19.5 fantasy point performance against Kansas City, which is a much better pass defense. We know he's got some talented pass catchers to throw to. So I think it's a pretty solid value. Hard to argue with any sub 5K quarterback in a good matchup. But it's also Aiden O'Connell, and he could just turn into a complete pumpkin and score 7 fantasy points. That also would not surprise me.
Jake just knew all too well that if he left Aiden O'Connell for me, there was some risk as the Jacoby Myers drafter that I was going to take Aiden O'Connell. So took that option away from me. That's okay. I've got plenty of other options that I like at quarterback. Man, do I want to? There's a player that I want to draft, but I have concerns about whether he is healthy and whether he's going to play this week. So I'm debating whether I can take that risk on this player. I'll give it a little more thought. I am going to go with, man, do I continue down? I'm struggling with this decision because there are a few players that I like, kind of, that there's nobody that I absolutely love. I think I'm going to go. Yeah, screw it. I'm just going to take the risk. I am going to go with Mike Evans with my next pick. Continue to build out that game stack a little bit because I still have good amount of salary. I went mid-range with both my first 2 picks. I'm going to spend up for Mike Evans, and if he's out, I'll find a pivot somewhere. Here, let's see. What's the note on Mike Evans? Didn't practice due to hamstring. Oh God, this is a bad decision. This is the one that you should tell me is my worst. I did not realize how injured he was. Evans was sidelined week 8 due to a strained right hamstring, so it it's mentioned maybe a residual of that injury, but with a pair of lower body injuries in tow, his status will be watched as the game goes on to see if he may be in danger of missing another contest. Man, he is. I'm counting on Mike Evans and or Devonta Smith for one of my eliminator teams. I have both of them on a team that somehow got through without Devonta Smith last week. So I need him. I need him for that team. Hopefully he is here. And Debro, you say I didn't do it. I'll just do that too. I'm going to go with Sterling Shepard with my second pick. I have 2 picks here, Debro.
Wow.
So I'm gonna take your advice because I know Debro is a guy I can trust. He gives good advice here. I'm going to go double Tampa Bay receiver here with Sterling Shepard. Still have 55-60 left per player. What do you think? Am I a sheep for just taking Debro's advice without looking deeper into it, Jake?
I mean, I think Sterling Shepard is probably going to end up being a pretty good play. You're probably more of a sheep for selecting Mike Evans, not knowing how injured he was.
Yeah.
To be fair, I do think he finished the game.
I don't think he,
if I'm not mistaken. So I would figure he plays, but you never know. I mean, those hamstrings can be so fickle. Any of that soft tissue stuff can really,
especially with Mike Evans, like
really flare up. Yeah, I mean, he's 30, and yeah, it's tough.
He has a history. He also has a long streak of 1,000-yard seasons, so I don't know if that's gonna, like, if he can go, if he wants to go, because he still needs like 95 yards per game or something to reach 1,000 yards. I don't know. It's an interesting spot there.
Neil, you keep taking everyone that I want to take.
That's what I love to hear. That is my favorite thing to hear, is that I'm taking the players that other people want here. But Jake still has an opportunity to take a player that you want also. Jake, you have 51-16 left per spot. Who do you want to take here?
I think I'm going to go. I feel like I probably don't have the salary to pay up a ton at wide receiver, and I'm also not sure there are any options I'm really in love with at this point in the week. So I probably want to shoot for the middle range a bit more. I'm going to roll with Jerry Jeudy, who obviously saw outstanding usage last week. And I mean, really, you could argue for any Browns pass catcher. Cedric Tillman will probably be back in the fold this week off of his concussion. Elijah Moore, David Njoku. I mean, all of these guys are players who could see 10, 12, even 15 targets in an individual game, because Jameis Winston is certainly not the best quarterback in the NFL, but he's probably the most exciting to watch, and he makes offenses way more fun. I mean, it's week after week, it gets even crazier that this team decided to roll with Deshaun Watson for as long as they did.
Right?
Yeah, just absolutely wild, the decision-making with the Browns. But, I mean, that might have come from ownership, right? Like, that may not be on.
Yeah, I mean, they spent a lot of money on him.
Yeah, exactly.
I pulled this up. Debro was saying, look at Las Vegas versus slot in terms of schedule-adjusted fantasy points allowed. So I pulled that up. You can see they are, 7th in the NFL in terms of 7th worst at allowing fantasy points to slot receivers. So it's a great spot for Sterling Shepard based on schedule-adjusted fantasy points allowed to slot receivers. Good note there from Debro. And he's been running like most of the routes, I think. So, yeah, looks good. Jerry Jeudy. So Jake, just a big box score watcher is what we're learning. He just like, what did well last week? Oh, I guess I'll go with that guy. Yeah, it's
it does feel chasey, but I mean, Debra already noted in the chat Tillman DNP, which would also be huge for Jeudy. And I think one of the best notes in Scott Barrett's Everything report this week was that Jerry Jeudy went from 54th in the NFL in receiving yards before Jameis Winston took over to, I believe he's currently 5th. Which
insane.
Is absolutely crazy. And I mean, like, in all the separation type metrics, per route metrics, at least since Jameis took over, he's been looking pretty strong. Certainly getting the air yards there. So we know the big play potential is there with Jeudy. Maybe a bit closer to a tournament play than a 3-man play, but still projecting really, really well at this point in the week.
Yeah.
I had that Cleveland game. I live bet the under 72.5 after the 2 back-to-back long touchdowns, because I was like, okay, like, they're not just going to keep throwing bombs like this. And then got down to the end of the game, and everything was looking good. Cleveland's going to drive, maybe kick a field goal, should cash with these, and then we get the pick 6, which was so weird. Like, the guy didn't even realize nobody touched him. He had so much time just to get up and run it into the end zone, and that's how I lost. So that was not fun. But That's what you get with the Browns. And
I mean, I saw Fantasy Guru Drew posting that it was one of the worst beats of his career. I know I had like a lineup that was only duped, I don't know, 8 or 10 times in first in the mini max and a few other contests for a couple minutes there down the stretch, and I had no faith that it was going to hold, because you just know Jameis Winston is going to do something. Yeah, he always does. He throws a lot of touchdowns. It's just you never know to which team or to which player. It's crazy. He's a total mystery box.
I believe Drew was winning $100,000 still, I think, at the time of that interception. So yeah, pretty tough loss for him. But also, I've been saying for years now that they need to ban gurus on DraftKings. So like, it's probably for the best. We don't want gurus taking all of our money. All right, Ricky, it is your turn. You have 2 picks to make here, and you have 4,700 left per pick. With your quarterback left, a couple wide receivers, a tight end, a flex, and a defense. Who do you like here?
Okay, so first I'm going to go Geno Smith and do a little stack with JSN there. It's not the most expensive quarterback this week, and we get some correlation. I know this game might not end up being the best, but it was like, 17-6 or something, or it was super low scoring last time they played. But if the Cardinals can get some offense together, the GSN and Geno stack could look pretty good. So I'll go with that, and that'll start saving me some salary. And let's see, with my other pick here, I guess I'll just go with I have 2 running backs so far, right?
You do. You have Aaron Jones and Saquon Barkley, so you could do one more in your flex if you want to.
Okay. Yeah, let me grab Tony Pollard.
All right, Tony Pollard. So taking up that flex spot, you're going to have to, I guess, you still have plenty of places to save some salary with the tight end and the defense. So not really an issue yet for you, especially you just saved a bit on the quarterback. You're down to 4,000 left per player. So I
got a master plan. Just
you do
take the guys that I keep wanting to throw into my lineup.
But those are my favorite guys to take, are the ones that you want in your lineup specifically. Okay. All right. Well, Ricky's got a plan. Looking good, as long as you can find some of those values to throw in there. Jake, you've got your stack. Aiden O'Connell with Brock Bowers, Alvin Kamara, Jerry Jeudy, 5,000 left per player. You get 1 pick now, your 5th pick.
Yeah, this is a bit of a tricky one. No super obvious values on the board. I already have my 1 seed positions taken care of. I think I want to go with Bucky Irving here. There were a few different running backs I was debating between. This is partially a salary play. I was a bit worried Bijan Robinson would just put me in a trickier position. Same thing with Devon Achane. Bucky Irving is, I think Scott Barrett said it best, the guy that we sort of drafted Jahmyr Gibbs to be. He's finally taken over in terms of inside the 10 stuff, receiving stuff, which is huge, because the narrative for pretty much the whole season was that, Bucky's a bit more efficient on the ground, actually a lot more efficient on the ground, but they still prefer Rachaad White as the pass catching back. I mean, Bucky had more targets, more routes last week, and he's in a really good spot against the Las Vegas team that's struggled mightily to stop the run. I believe it's a top 7, top 8 schedule adjusted matchup. So should be a really good spot for Bucky Irving. He's also a really explosive player. I mean, I like taking players who see usage, but I really like taking the guys who are, 5.5 yards per carry players who see great usage.
Are you worried at all about his multiple injuries?
No. I don't think there's too much of a reason to be concerned. He came back in the game last week, am I misremembering that?
He did. Based on the notes, he did come back in the game.
Yeah. All right. So in that case, I am not worried. I would be really worried about Mike Evans. Not at all worried about Bucky Irving.
I see. Funny how that works.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So now it's my turn. It's my turn once again. And I don't know who I want to take. And got some names I kind of like here. Oh, I like this one. I think I do like this name. I'm going to go with Tyrone Tracy. I think Tyrone Tracy, just 5,800, a little bit too cheap for a player with his abilities. As long as he doesn't fumble it, I think he has that lead back role. Great matchup with the Saints. So I will throw Tracy in there. That does allow me to, if I want to pay up at tight end. Man, Trey McBride, just the role is so good there. I think I'm going to go that route. Trey
Will he
McBride,
finally get his first touchdown?
I mean, if he just ever scores a touchdown, like wheels up for Trey McBride, because like he can get the 100-yard bonus and like 10 catches and pay off without scoring a touchdown, and just like, come on, if he just scores a touchdown one day, he's going to put up 35 fantasy points. So I'm gonna count on that with Trey McBride. I still have 5,300 left per player with a quarterback, a defense, and a flex remaining. And I'm going to send it back to Jake. Yeah, that's the start of the 6th round. Yes. Wait, you took a player and I didn't put him in here.
I took Bucky, right?
You did take Bucky.
Yeah, I took Bucky.
Wait, did I put him in somebody else's? No. Okay, yeah, I just forgot to put him in there. Okay, it is your pick in the 6th round with 4,600 left per player.
Yeah. This is tricky. I feel like I've been saying that for about 3 rounds in a row, but this is always a tough format to think through. Let's go with Juwan Jennings here. There's just no reason a player of Jennings' caliber should be 5,200. I know the matchup with the Bears certainly isn't the best. Jennings has just been balling out. He's been like Brandon Ayuk plus in this role. And I think it's fair to say that he's just a significantly improved player from what we saw from him earlier in his career. Volume should be strong. Obviously, you know, some offensive efficiency concerns given all the injuries they have. But, you know, if the offense does struggle a bit, that might just make them pass more and could lead to more volume for a guy like Juwan Jennings. I also think, and I need to check the data to see if there's anything that backs this up, but I would imagine with no Trent Williams, assuming he sits, they'll probably keep George Kittle in to block a bit more, and that could also lead to more targets for a guy like Jennings. So yeah,
I said that on a Showdown show, and somebody in my chat, and I have not looked into whether it's true, but somebody said that was a myth. The George Kittle blocking more when they need him to, when like Trent Williams is out. Somebody was claiming that's not really true.
I feel like there's a chance it wouldn't show up in route share stuff because it might be a lot more like chip blocks, and then he's just running into the flat as opposed to like a normal route.
Okay, that would make sense.
I'll check with our film charters, and hopefully I'll have a more informed take on that by Friday, because I do think that's an interesting sort of thought, but we need to make sure there's actually substance there.
Yep, that's true. All right, back to Ricky for back-to-back picks. You need your 6th and your 7th pick. You have 4,000 left per player. You say you have a plan. Did we take any of your guys?
No, my plan is still alive.
All right.
So I guess we keep rolling with it. I think there's like one lineup that I'm able to build that might fit. So let's go with we're going to go back-to-back receivers here.
Okay.
And one guy is Q, so I don't know. It'll be a bit of a salary saver, but he's Q, which is going to be Calvin Austin. Super cheap. Just catch a touchdown, and I'll be happy for the week. But I didn't really check the news on his practice status or anything, so I'm not sure if you have anything more updated. I know he has a Q tag right now.
Limited participant on Wednesday.
So, okay. I'll take him with my first one, so that'll save me a bunch of salary there and pray for a touchdown. And my other receiver, I'll go with Amari Cooper.
Amari Cooper, okay. And you, if a player does end up not playing, you can swap that player out. So I guess you'd have to let me know, and then I can let Trey or whoever enters the lineup for you. I'll let them know to swap in whoever you want to replace him. If any of your players do end up out. Amari Cooper, 5,100. Any concerns that he has not really been a full-time player so far for the Bills?
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel great about the last 2 players that I had to pick, but I kind of pigeonholed myself in this, so rookie mistake, I guess. But he still has a decent projection from my stuff, and he's 5,100, so he's a bit of a salary saver, and you know, part of the Bills' offense. It should be a decent game. So again, maybe praying for a little bit of touchdown variance here, even if not getting a lot of volume. But yeah, he hasn't looked great this year, but I mean, they got him for a reason. So maybe this is the week he he ramps up a little bit.
I was like all in on Amari Cooper for Showdown. Like I did my Showdown show. I was like, it's past their bye week. I think he's going to be a full time. Like they're going to use him a lot more. Oh, okay, good. I was about to say I did not actually check if his route participation did come up. Debro says Cooper had a 70% route share in the first half last week. So maybe they were going to do that, and then the game just got kind of out of hand last week, and it was in the snow. And
Keon Coleman could be back this week, which adds a little bit of uncertainty there. With the route share, if I remember correctly, I don't believe we've seen a game where every single one of the Bills' top pass catchers has been healthy. Yeah, between Kincaid, Curtis Samuel, Keon Coleman, Amari Cooper, Matt Collins, all those guys. So yeah, we're still not quite sure how usage is going to shape up. But I mean, Amari Cooper against this Rams secondary that certainly struggled at points,
even part time. Yeah,
and at 5,100, the price makes sense. When he was closer to 6K, it's really hard click, but at this price, I think it makes some sense.
All right. So Ricky has 3,800 left with a tight end and a defense to go. Pretty easy to make that work at this point. Jake, it's back to you. You have 4,400 left per player, 3 picks left, wide receiver, flex, and defense.
Yeah. So I kind of want to do something crazy, but I'm worried that if I get sniped, I'm just so cooked. So I'm trying to figure out the best way to do this, because this gives me a team that I like, kind of similar to when we had Travis Mangone on, when he just jammed him in, ended up with a 15-point performance from Lil Jordan Humphrey.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna make my flex pick first, and then hope I don't get sniped on the defense that I need. But we're gonna go with Bijan Robinson. Team jam him in. Usage for Bijan has been incredible. Tyler Algier has not gotten an inside the 10 carry since he got stuffed on 3 consecutive inside the 10 carries. It is a tougher matchup against Minnesota, but I also don't know that I care a ton when it's a player who's seeing great usage and is tremendously talented. I think this is going to end up being a great spot for Bijan.
Yeah. And then, so Jake now has 2,850 left per player, and sends me with the knowledge that he wants a cheap defense to make this work.
Neil, so if you take the defense, I'm signing off. I'm
closing the Panthers. There's the Panthers at 2,200. So I could go Panthers, and then that would potentially ruin what Jake wants to do. But I don't really think Jake wants to go Panthers. Maybe he does. I don't know. I can't see the obvious, like, Bears defense really good. San Francisco kind of banged up, so I could see that being the defense you want to go to. I'm guessing you don't want to go to the Raiders against Tampa. Cleveland against Pittsburgh could make some sense here. I'm not going to probably snipe your defense, I guess. I don't think I feel the need to, because I'm just going to win, handily anyway, so not a huge concern there. I have 15,900 left per pick with a flex, quarterback, and defense left to go. So I'm gonna go back to actually my projections to see who I want to take at flex, because I don't think I need to go super cheap here. All the best picks are gone. Man, I don't think I can pay all the way up though, like I would like to. What a gross slate this is.
Yeah,
I realized after I picked Barkley, I was like, this is kind of difficult now.
Yeah. I think there's like a lot of interesting options at running back and wide receiver, but I think specifically quarterback is really, really hard, and that always makes the week tough because quarterback's kind of the foundation of every lineup that you make. So this is going to end up being a tricky week for sure.
All right, so I might take a defense here, and I know that I can leave my quarterback because you guys have both taken quarterbacks. So I'm trying to work back. If I wanted to go to Baker Mayfield, then I would need, let's see, 9,500 left, right? If I'm doing my math right, I think I need 9,500 out of my defense and my flex. So if I wanted to do, if I'm doing my math right, so I could go with a 300 defense and a 6,500 flex. Do I like any of these defenses? What I really want to do is Steelers defense, or is there a flex I like that's 6,000?
Yeah,
Marvin
Steelers
Harrison's
defense, I mean, understandably our highest projected this week. I mean, there's maybe a 40% chance they get a pick six. By the way, that Jameis Winston quote post game where he said, "I am praying that God
That was the
delivers me
best.
from pick
Such
sixes."
a
That's
good-
like one of the greatest post game quotes of all time.
Yeah. Debro says Justin Jefferson going off this late. I don't think I can make that work. Otherwise, I would obviously love Justin Jefferson. I guess that's the way I could go Justin Jefferson, and then I could steal Jake's pick for defense, because I could go Jefferson, and I mean if I did Jefferson plus the Panthers, then I would have 5,900 left over for a quarterback, which would get me to. I couldn't do Kyler, so yeah, I can't really make it work with Justin Jefferson, sadly.
I've kind of gotten the sense that the field's given up a bit on Minnesota's passing game, which I'm not sure is right. I think everyone's kind of written off Darnold since he had that disaster in Jacksonville, and you look at the recent game logs, and he's been pretty solid, and obviously we know what he's capable of. Based on some of that early season stuff, it's an angle that I'm pretty interested in for tournaments. In this format, I'm a little bit more iffy about it.
Yeah.
Addison's had a couple of good games recently, right?
He has, yeah. I could go with Drake London. I don't totally hate Drake London here. 6,400. Vikings defense, they show up here as the 32nd in opponents rate. I don't really believe that. Could go Najee Harris plus Pittsburgh defense. Does Najee project well enough to even think about this? A lot of people believe
good projection this week.
Yeah, it seems like, I mean, Jaylen Warren is in the doghouse a bit, because I know there was a series where Najee got hurt, and it was Cordero Patterson who actually came in instead of Jaylen Warren. I mean, Najee's usage was really, really strong last week, but it's one of those spots where it's like I wouldn't be shocked if it reverted back to the sort of early season version of the committee.
Yeah, I'm a little it makes sense from a correlation standpoint to go with Najee and the Pittsburgh defense, which I also don't really need to worry about as much on this slate. All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go with. I think I'm going to go with Drake London. Just I like the PPR upside there with Drake London, even in a not ideal matchup. 6,400. He's so cheap at this point that I think he's worth the flyer there. Now, if I go with Baker Mayfield, I would have 3,100 left over. Yeah, so I could pick up my 3,100 defense right now. 49ers defense there against Chicago. Do I want that? Oh, Saints defense against the Giants. Do I have a flex I could do at 6,600 I like better? No, screw it. I'm sticking with Drake London. I'm going to go with, man, that's tempting. Saints defense against the Giants. Oh, you know what? I'm just going to look at the fantasy points projections. Easy peasy.
Oh, no. That's my secret, Neil. You're not allowed to do that.
Yeah, no, it is Saints defense is the number one. That's fantasy points per dollar. Actually, let me see fantasy points in general. It is still Saints defense looks the best. So I am going to go with the Saints defense here and leave myself enough for a quarterback that you guys can't take from me. 6,600 left over. Sending it back to Jake. You have 2,850 left per player with a wide receiver and a defense to go.
Yeah, so I think the only guy I'm worried about getting sniped here would be a defense potentially. Yeah, because Ricky does not have a defense selected. So I will be going with hold on, let me just make sure. Yeah, I will be going with the Browns defense. Same exact projection as the Bears, and it gets me to the punt play that I want, that I know Neil will really appreciate after I draft it.
All right, I'm looking forward to finding out who the $3,300 punt play is that Jake wants. Ricky, you have 3,800 left per player with a tight end and a defense to go. Did everything come together with you? Did you get? Are you going to be able to draft who you want to here?
I mean, who I want to is a loose term, but who I'm forced to is maybe
All right.
a better term. So, Yeah, I'm going to go with my tight end first, and I'll take Evan Ingram.
Okay. Yep.
I know he's cheap, and hopefully they're get a little bit of correlation there with the game. We got a couple players from that game, so
Yep.
maybe he gets there. And then for defense, I have 2,800. So let's see. I mean, defense. Let's go with. I think I'll go with Titans D. I know that's going against one of my players, but not really a super impactful player, and they project the best for me out of what's left, and that consumes all my salary. So we made it work.
You made it work, and in a 3-man, yeah, I'm not that worried about negative correlation like that. Looks good. We'll hold off on the review. We'll finish out the rest of our teams, and then we will each do just a quick review of our team, how we feel things went for us. But Jake and I each have one pick left. So Jake, who is the wide receiver that you've been holding out on at 3,300?
Yeah, I'm going to go with UFL legend Kevin Austin here. He actually projects pretty well, which is just great to see. Really warms the heart to see a former Birmingham Stallion balling out for the New Orleans Saints. Neil, I don't know about you, but the most surprising thing to me about Kevin Austin being a successful offensive contributor in the NFL isn't that Kevin Austin is doing this. It's that Deon Cain was, I think, pretty clearly the best receiver on the Birmingham Stallions, and he's just not getting a shot. I think that's probably an age thing. I think Deon Cain is in his late 20s. I believe Kevin Austin is only 24, 25. But it's always just kind of crazy to me to see that, NFL teams, I don't know if Kevin Austin will be on an NFL roster, next year. So it's kind of like a 1-year rental thing. Why wouldn't you just go with the best player available? It's just weird to see guys like Deon Cain. I think Justin Hall for the Houston Roughnecks is another great example where it's like, this is clearly an NFL talent, but I think he's just older, and teams would rather take a shot on a guy who's 23 and hope he develops, as opposed to, using a roster spot on one of those older guys who could clearly be a contributor, as a wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5.
Yeah, seems to be the case that they're just going with the younger guys instead of leaning into the most talent, which does seem like a questionable decision in my opinion. But NFL coaches make a lot of questionable decisions in my opinion. So yeah, not that shocking. All right, and I will close it out as we know. Baker Mayfield is double stacked for me. So I've got the Baker Mayfield, and I guess I'll do my quick recap of my team. Baker Mayfield double stacked with Mike Evans and Sterling Shepard. The bring back of Jacoby Myers for mine. I have Isaac Garendo and Tyrone Tracy at running back, Trey McBride at tight end, Drake London in the flex, and then Saints defense rounding it out. So I also have defense against one of my running backs, but generally I think my team is pretty well correlated. I feel good about it. I leave 200 on the table. I didn't see a defense that I like better than 2,900 to pay up to instead of the Saints. I don't know if there's another player that I could have upgraded here and it would have been better. I feel pretty good about it in general. So yeah, I'm happy with my team. Jake, you drafted the second last. How are you feeling about how your team went?
I feel really good about this team. This is definitely a strong build. I feel pretty great about every single play on the board here. I think, guys like Aiden O'Connell, Kevin Austin certainly aren't players that I'd be excited about in tournaments, but I think they're decent values. And, Kevin Austin, at least partially for me, is a narrative play too, because I love seeing my spring football guys succeed. And beyond that, I think everyone else is, a really, really strong play. I got 3 of my favorite running backs on the slate. I got 2 of the best values at wide receiver, according to our current projections. And then I got the alpha tight end 1 in Dynasty, tight end 1 in redraft, tight end 1 in DFS, Brock Bowers. So I can always feel pretty good about that.
Yep. Hard to argue with that. And finally, Ricky, you took the 1 hole, and you finally used up all your salary cap. It was looking a little bit hairy for a little bit there because you bought a lot of expensive players early on, but you found some value to make it work. How are you feeling about your team?
I think I'm not the happiest with it, but we'll see if we can make it work. I mean, it did feel like once you go with Barkley on this slate as a whole, it kind of pigeonholes you into like certain builds, like thinking like tournaments, right? Like you're probably going to have to use Garendo and like AOC stack or something like that. And I think so many of those teams are going to be so similar that it's just going to be hard to compete in larger field stuff when you go down that pigeonhole. And then, of course, you guys took that value, so I really had to go off the wall and punt in a couple spots. But I can get lucky, right? Beginner's luck maybe comes through for me, so we'll see how it goes.
Doesn't take much in a 3-man, right? Not a ton of luck to get you there, especially when I'm one of the 3, clearly.
Yeah, I mean, Jake has just one win on the season for anybody who doesn't know, 12 weeks in.
Despite having probably the highest projected team in 5 or 6 different weeks, it's been it's been a rough go, to say the least. Depends
on whose projections you use. As I've noted,
Neil's projections
in the Neil Brain projections, mine always has the best projection. This is fun. Ricky, really appreciate you joining us for this show. Do you have anything that you want to shout out that people should check out, and where can people find you?
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter on rfresh with 3 H's on the end. Neil, you tagged me in that post. And
there's a 3 in there too.
Oh, there's a 3 in there, yeah, rfresh, with a 3 and 3 H's. And yeah, I mean, you'll find me at the Prop Shop. That's a prop site that I run. All the info's in my Twitter, so if you do stumble across it, hop in the Discord, and happy to chat and show you what that's about if anybody's interested in that.
The prop.shop, right? Is that the
That's correct.
URL?
Yeah, the prop.shop. Yep.
And I know Jake has used it, and Jake is a fan of the prop shot. I again cannot bet here in Minnesota, so I haven't really had the ability to use it, but I know Ricky's a sharp guy, so definitely worth checking out if you are able to sports bet. Jake, I know you've used it in the past, and you've
I'm currently a customer. It's something I use every week. It's a really, really helpful tool. I think it's the most helpful for me. It's pretty easy when I see, we've got a projection of 280 passing yards on Russell Wilson and his line's 245. It's pretty easy for me to bet, the over on something like that. I think where it really comes in handy is when you have a guy projected for, 1.8 receptions and the over is minus 105 or whatever, just seeing like the exact value, like how that stacks up versus your projection on some of those trickier, less intuitive lines is really where it's helped me quite a bit, especially I think touchdowns too. Like anytime touchdown score stuff, it helps a lot, because sometimes it's hard to translate in your brain. Like, okay, we've got this guy projected for a quarter touchdown, but what does that really mean in terms of actual odds? So it's been a really helpful site, and something that I use every week.
Yeah. And Jake, what else do you have coming up, and where can people find you?
Yeah, all my work is over at fantasypoints.com. Got the DFS early look already up on the site. So if you want an early look on the slate, wrote up a handful of players that we already talked about here. Beyond that, I'll be helping out Scott Barrett with his weekly slate breakdown. So that generally comes out Saturday right around noon. And then I also do back-to-back shows on Friday night. I do Cashing Points with Grant Barfield and Hilo, where we go game by game, talking about every angle for the slate, whether it's cash games, tournaments, values, whatever. So that's 7 p.m. Eastern time on Fridays. And then immediately after, I do the Underdog Drafter Party with Ryan Heath, where we talk about the slate from a Battle Royale perspective, the 6-man, 12-man drafts on Underdog. That show is always a ton of fun. We always have a handful of beers, do a lot of chat interaction, answer a ton of questions. So definitely check that out if you're playing any Underdog, any DFS this week.
I will be, of course, on my own channel in the Flannelverse doing a Thursday Night Football breakdown tomorrow night. Not doing the show tomorrow morning that I have done most past weeks with Adam Ship My Money Share. We are shelving that show for the time being, so we can focus on NBA. I might try to get him back during the NFL playoffs, but for the time being, I will just be doing my pre-lock show in the Flannelverse channel. Of course, I'll be putting out my Thursday Night Football article on Fantasy Points behind the paywall that will be coming out tomorrow as well, so you can get a full breakdown of my thoughts on the slate at Fantasy Points. So check out Fantasy Points if you have not already done so. Highly recommended. Of course, check out the prop.shop as well. Check out Ricky's betting if you're into betting. Jake and I will be back with another guest next Wednesday. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. We will see you then.
Thanks.
What? Why are you shaking your head? You're welcome.